Hi everybody, this is Blue Phoenix, aka Fresh. I just read a cool article on Music Radar about how to add stereo to your mono synths and samples. And I already knew some of these techniques and was thinking of making a tutorial. So having even more stuff to present was a good reason to just push me over the edge. So I'm going to show you what I've got going here is just a real simple drum kit. The ride, close hat, open hat, clap. So this is mostly mono here. So to fix this, there's a really nice trick you can do here. In Ableton, you can right-click on the chain here for ride and just say duplicate. What you can do then is you can now control each of these individually. And you can pan one of those ride cymbals to the left and detune it by a certain number of cents here. You pan the other one to the right, and you give it a different detune the other direction. Do that for all of your instruments here. Pan it, and then detune, pan, detune. The higher you go with your pan and your detune, the more stereofication you're going to get. I'm going to patent that word, okay? So I've done that with all these, and this is the result. So it's a much better sound, has a much richer sound to it in stereo. You know, I do think that my ride was not over here, so. Well, anyway, there you go. So that is the first little trick. You can transpose, pan each one a different direction. So you can also do a lot of stereofication with a reverb. Let's go to the dry signal here. I've got an instance of the Diva synth here, and I've removed the effects from this patch and just kind of made it mono. You can see they're even. By adding a little bit of reverb, you can fix that really easily. So what you do is just set a pre-delay here of some non-zero value, and set your reverb to early only. Just to not muddy it up, but to just add the stereo effect. And set the spread to wide. On this particular, this is the Ubic Ambience by Yuhi. It's very nice. So it's very easy, and there you go. You can also do a trick here where you just use the reverb on either the left or the right channel. So I'm going to use this trick a lot, but in Ableton you create an audio effect rack and you can do different chains. In this particular one, I panned the one chain to the right, and I just left the clean signal to go through that. And on the left channel, I have the same reverb patch I used in the other one. So that works pretty well. You can also fix this in the synth. So in this Diva, I'm just using one instance here, and with no effects. I set my stack to 4 so that each note is going to play 4 oscillators instead. And then I set my stack index to pan differently. So that's going to add a stereo effect. I think if I just zero this out, it's going to be back to mono, see? So sometimes just turning a few knobs on your synth can make a huge difference. Try to make your oscillators wider. I think in Silent it's called width. If you have Zebra 2, one of my favorites, it's I think it's also width under the output settings, something like that. But yes, RTFM. Read the manual. Okay, read the fun manual. That's what the F stands for. Pitch shifting. So this actually turned out really well. I've got, again, 2 chains, one hard left, one hard right. And I used Ableton's frequency shifter and just bumped it 1 hertz in either direction. And I also used the LFO, so it's going to change over time. If I turn that off, that's the dry. That one was fairly effective and pretty easy to do. I'm going to move on to the Haas effect, or Has, or I'm really not sure how you say this. So I've got a different patch here. This one's ARPy. Again, I've removed the effects that were in the patch, and you can see it's mono here. So if I turn on the has effect, what that's basically doing is delaying one side by a certain amount of time. So I've got my left channel is clean, so that's going to happen right on the normal time, and the right I'm going to delay just 22 milliseconds. You can do that with a simple delay in Ableton, and you just hit link on here on the and set time instead of sync. Dry wet 100%, feedback 0. Otherwise, well, yeah, you're gonna get something weird. But set that feedback to 0. Now your time, really, your sweet spot is underneath 30 milliseconds. If you go above that, it starts to sound weird. So let me demonstrate that. So above 30, you start to realize that it sounds like two sounds, and it doesn't sound very good. Turn it at about 20, and it sounds right on, right on. We can also make that even more complex and dual Haas. So we have the center channel, which we have not panned. It's the clean signal. Then on the left, we're going to have a delay at 12 milliseconds. The right's like 29. And that sounds really nice. I really like how that one turned out. So the dual Haas is really a really good way of doing it. Again, if you go 0 to 30 milliseconds, that's your best bet, I think, before it starts to separate. Overdrive. I tried this out, and it's subtle at best. Music Radar suggests using the guitar amp and using different settings on each side. Here I'm just, I didn't really like the guitar amp on this particular sound, so I just use a saturator from Ableton. And, oh, there's more settings in here. I thought so. It was hiding. So anyway, you can play around with those numbers. And just change it so that each side's a little bit different, and that will create your stereo effect. We can also use chorus. So basically I have chorus only on the right, and the left side is clean. There's nothing going through. So on your chorus, you want to set kind of a low feedback here, set your totally wet, no dryness allowed, and then set your rate down pretty low. That one turns out pretty good too. And finally, last tip here, you can enhance your stereofication. You can use a plugin like FabFilter's Pro Q. It's an EQ that has a mid-side mode. I think Ableton has one too. But you put it in mid-side mode, and you can actually hear what that's going to sound like, just the side band in that band of frequencies. So what this does with these settings is the higher frequencies are going to be pushed more to the sides, and the middle is going to be cut out of the higher frequencies. On the other end, your mids are going to be pushed in the bass side, in the bass frequencies, and the sides are going to be pushed down. So you're kind of monoing the bass some, but spreading out the higher frequencies. Always a good choice. So that's basically it. I hope you found those tips useful. Be sure to stereofy your sounds. They're a lot more interesting that way. So I hope you found those tips useful. Again, this is Erkin Fresh, aka Blue Phoenix. If you find my tutorials useful, be sure to subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing. If you have any suggestions for other tutorials, let me know. I'll see you next time.